Hello everyone, my name is Lucy. Today my topic is prevention first and the future towards proactive medicine and enhancement of human lives through digital health. It's a lot of presentations today, but hopefully this will be a very interesting topic for you. So I think we can say with confidence that life is it's getting better, I think, in the world, although it's very messy. Our life expectancy is increasing every year. In Canada, we live average of 82 years, sorry, I can't speak. And the gender differences of life expectancy between the males and the females is also decreasing over time. And this can be largely explained by decreased infant mortality, our ability to address different communicable diseases like infections and acute illness, like we can now prevent the prevalence of smallpox, measles, things like that. And also we have different advanced technologies and different therapeutic interventions. And we have this exploding data about human health. And that's really coming from electronic medical records data, consumer level genetics data, and data from our wearable devices and our smartphones. And all this data kind of improves all aspects of healthcare and medical sciences, like medical research. We can access all this information through our smartphones. It can help in developing our clinical applications, like we can use machine learning algorithms to predict or prevent a lot of the diseases. And we can create things like telemedicine or health applications or virtual clinics or virtual patient care. And that kind of poses or raises several different questions, like, is our health getting substantially better, or are we just good at prolonging our time before death? So are we still sick, or are we sicker, really? And if you look at all the leading causes of death in Canada, malignant neoplasms or cancer is the number one cause that kills a lot of people in Canada. Sorry. And a lot of different causes of mortality are chronic illnesses, so diseases that are seen for more than 3 months. And you won't be surprised to see that a lot of them, like cardiovascular diseases or cerebrovascular diseases or diabetes or chronic lower respiratory diseases, they all cause significant mortalities in Canada. And unfortunately, these chronic illnesses tend to accumulate over time as we approach the old age. And when I say old age, I'm talking about age of more than 85 years. About 44% of the Canadian population over the age of 20 reports having been diagnosed with at least one of the 10 major chronic diseases that we just talked about in the pie charts. And as we approach the old age, there seems to be an increased number of chronic diseases, and that kind of contributes to the main source of high costs in health services because older population tends to utilize more healthcare. And that brings more risk of functional disabilities in our daily activities, like eating, dressing up, or moving to different places. And the chronic illnesses can also increase the risk of experiencing premature mortality or deaths that happen before our average life expectancy. And that's potential years of life lost. So you guys have probably maybe heard of this term, compression of morbidity. It was coined by Dr. James Fries. He is a doctor who studied what it really means to have longer life in modern society. So while our life expectancy is increased, managing chronic illnesses and resulting long-term complications may actually reduce our quality of life. And Dr. Fries said longer life in modern society means reduction of chronic illnesses or severe chronic illnesses for a short time near the end of life, so less suffering, less pain. And you guys have maybe heard of the situation where, let's say there are two twin brothers who were born at the same time, lived in the same environment, and let's say ideally they die at the same time. But let's just say one brother has more risk factors, like he has adopted a not very healthy lifestyle, like smoking or drinking. Maybe he did things that might have a detrimental effect on his health. Then you can see that while these two brothers may experience death at the same time, the first brother will have a longer times to manage their chronic illnesses and see more morbidities before death. So it's the compression of morbidity really states that postponing the age of onset of the first biomarker of morbidity, like seeing our first heart attack, might reduce the burden of lifetime illnesses before death. So could some deaths be preventable? And the answer is yes. There's this term called plasticity of aging, where physiological variables like cardiac reserve, glucose tolerance, cognitive function, or muscle strength, they may be modifiable at any age through modification of different risk factors, and health may be improved with preventive lifestyle approaches. So these are some of the modifiable risk factors that contribute to development or progression of chronic diseases. So through improvement of risk factors, early screening, early intervention, and successful treatment of those chronic conditions, we might be able to improve our health. And that brings us to the topic that I'm going to talk about, which is called digital health. And that's kind of a broad umbrella term of different concepts that we commonly see in modern society today. That includes mobile health, health information technology, wearable devices, telehealth, telemedicine, personalized medicine, internet and social networking. And the definition of digital health is that it is a convergence of digital technology with healthcare living in society to enhance the efficiency of healthcare delivery and orient medical practices to a more personalized approach. But it's really saying that the digital health is emerged from the premise of expanding human health data of lifestyles, habits, clinical histories, and pathophysiological characteristics. So it relies very heavily on patient-generated data, and digital health allows this continuous flow of data from the patient to the patient's families to the physician and the community. So it's really empowering human health by promoting patient contribution to diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, and management of illnesses. So really involves tracking, monitoring, managing, and improving our own health. Mobile health is one of the digital health technologies, and this was a research study done by Mayo Clinic. And basically in the study, patients with ischemic heart or myocardial infarction were required to monitor their daily lifestyle functions, I guess, like blood pressure and blood glucose, weight, and their overall mental or psychological mood to this mobile application. And it was speculated that over a 3-month period, the patients who used this mobile application on top of cardiac rehabilitation program were associated with improved modifiable risk factors like glucose tolerance and blood pressure levels, and they were also associated with reduced readmission rates for heart attack, basically. So it kind of shows how modifying our risk factors could improve our function, our physiological function, and also improve our overall health by improving our diet, physical activity, and behavioral changes by making efforts to, for example, reduce our stress. So these are the type of the wearables that we commonly see in modern society. For example, we see a lot of Apple Watches. There are ways that we can track our health, our physical activity, and there are also smart clothing that detect sedentary positions of older populations so that in case of falls, emergency responders can respond to this accident very quickly. And how wearable devices usually work is that the sensors in wearable devices will collect raw physiological data, and through machine learning algorithms that process this data to extract any important information and meaningful information, will then send this to cloud, and the processed data would be sent to patient, family, and physicians. This is one of the wearable device technology that is licensed by the Federal Drug Administration, or the FDA. This is a smartphone-based electrocardiogram. So when the patient downloads this mobile application, their end kit records electrocardiogram, then the person can basically put their fingers onto like a sensor pad near the smartphone, and that will take the electrocardiogram, and they can get instant results about their blood pressure, their heart rate, things like that. And in a study of patients with ischemic stroke, the use of this technology was associated with an increased detection and identification of subclinical atrial fibrillation over a year when compared to the control group who just received routine care, for example, by just visiting the physician for every 3 months or so. So using these, I guess, digital health technologies could achieve early therapeutic interventions and early dosage adjustments of medications for increased clinical outcome. I didn't know about this, but apparently there's a sensor in diapers that you can use that detects humidity, so you can kind of skip the sniff test, save some time. There's one for adults as well. I guess that's really beneficial for caregivers. And this is new. This is called a smart diaper, and basically has all of these sensors on the diaper, and it detects different protein levels. So it allows detection of any urinary tract infections, prolonged dehydration, and developing kidney problems. And that information gets sent to the parents' smartphones, which is pretty cool. There's a smart sock too. It records child's heart rate, oxygen level, skin temperature, and sleep quality and sleep position to parents' smartphones. And the company who developed this said it could potentially lead to reduced rate of sudden infant death syndrome. So, pretty cool. In a video by Dr. Daniel Kraft, who is a professor at Singularity University in California, kind of suggested this transition of digital health technology where we started with buildables, we moved on to movables, carryables, wearables, like smartwatches, and then we go into this concept of insidables. So could we have internal sensors that we place or implants in the body? And the answer is, yeah, it's already happening, where FDA last year in November approved the first digital pill. So it's basically a sensor embedded in this medication called aripiprazole, which is a schizophrenia treatment. And it really detects the drug administration time to reduce medical non-adherence. So when the person ingests the digital pill that has the sensor in it, the sensor in the digital pill will get activated when it comes into contact with acidic gastric fluid, and it will generate an electrochemical reaction. And that electrical signal would be transmitted to a wearable pad, or wearable receivable patch. It kind of looks like a Band-Aid, and the patient would place it anywhere on their body and on their skin. And that information would then be transmitted to their smartphone applications, and tell the patient and their families about the administration time and the patient's activity levels. And it would also be transferred to the physician as well. So the Proteus Digital Health is the company that developed this technology, and according to their statistics, about 1 in 4 people, this is the United States, but they suffer from 2 or more chronic conditions such as hypertension or type 2 diabetes. And about 84% of the US healthcare costs is really based on managing chronic conditions. And more than 50% of the prescribed medications are not taken as directed. So this medical non-adherence can have a pretty significant impact on managing the symptoms of different chronic diseases, and it could reduce therapeutic effectiveness of different drug therapies. So by using technologies like digital pills, we could improve clinical outcomes and achieve the patient's health goals by ensuring that the patient is getting the treatment that they need. These are relatively new technologies. They're not really licensed yet, but on the left we see an ingestible bacteria on a chip. And this is basically an ingestible biosensor that carries genetically engineered bacteria that could detect gastrointestinal bleeding in gastric ulcers. So in the biosensor, there's a cell that contains the probiotic strains of E. coli that expresses a genetic circuit and causes the bacteria to emit light when it comes into contact with heme, which is a biomolecule in blood. So yeah, the technology hasn't been approved yet, but the research is still ongoing. On the right, you see a tooth mounted sensor that monitors glucose levels, alcohol levels, and salt. And that could be used to monitor the diet and some health conditions of the patients, and that information would be sent to a mobile phone as well. And the company that is developing this technology is looking at taking more steps by maybe using this technology in the diagnosis of oral cancer or diabetes and things like that by detecting hormones in saliva.
Very fashionable too.
Yeah, it's like instead of grills, you can have like different biosensors. So I guess it brings us to a hopeful or optimistic future of biosensors, where could we see long-term implantations of sensors that monitor all of our physiological functions throughout their lifetime, possibly from birth, and see how our health is improving or declining? Could this mean that healthcare system and clinic would change, I guess, because the patient would get access to all of their health information? So could we see the change in role of the physicians and different health professionals? Since we can monitor and track our time, or track our health and our disease conditions, could we possibly plan our life events by looking at our own health data? Like, could we say, I'm gonna cancel a lunch meeting because I'm gonna have a heart attack in 3 hours or something like that? I don't know, maybe, possibly. But obviously there are challenges of digital health technologies, and the number one thing is security and privacy of the health data. Since the data management is going beyond the hands or the scope of public agencies, we need to ensure that there are strict regulations and guidelines that ensure safety of sensitive health data, and consent and agreements from all involved individuals, so the patients' families, the physicians, and the community needs to be ensured as well. Also, we do not really know a lot about our diseases still. Diseases involve from complex combinations of different epigenetic and environmental factors. There are many idiopathic diseases that we don't know how it started. So we still don't have a full understanding of how diseases work and how they progress and how we treat them. So we need to kind of broaden our scope of knowledge in understanding all the diseases. Also, one might ask that although we have all these cool technologies, there are different social problems in the society that kind of contribute to disease progression and development. So for example, individuals who live in poverty, a marginalized population and area, they are more prone to different health risk factors. So we need to address these issues first to ensure that everyone is included in our, I guess, changing paradigm of health promotion. So we need, so it also brings the issue of constant surveillance and coercion. So if our digital health technologies are becoming more prevalent and physicians and insurance companies encourage more use of these technologies, then would the patient feel pressured to use these technologies even if they don't want to? And so ensuring consent is very critical, and general health promotion might kind of pose a question of are we thrusting too much of a responsibility to the patient to improve their health, and kind of pressuring them to change their lifestyles when there might be other factors involved. But digital health can be used as a useful physician tool by preventing illnesses and complications through early detection and intervention. So through this, we could achieve medicine writ large, where the role of the physician is not just preventing and treating the diseases, but it can go beyond that and looking at, the physician can look at different aspects and dimensions of the patient's life. Digital health technologies should really be used to reduce inefficiencies and increasing demand on healthcare. It could also improve access and quality of care, and it would attempt to make medicine more personalized based on patient characteristics and patient health data. And it would also encourage patient engagement and participation in managing their healthy lifestyles and general well-being. So it's not just focusing on the role of the physician and the health professionals, but it's really the collaboration of the physician and the patient and the community and different public health agencies. And it might also increase patient satisfaction when they're fully aware of what's happening in their body, where people with chronic health conditions, they might not know what like a slight minor pain in their arm could be. They might say that this might be a sign of heart attack, and that people with chronic health illnesses, they are sometimes subject to a lot of insecurity and fear about their health. So through digital health technologies, it could improve patient compliance and satisfaction. So in the end, digital health technology is mostly about fulfilling the Hippocratic Oath, and this is an excerpt from the modern Hippocratic Oath, and it says, "I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure." So in medicine, we must strive to reduce the prevalence of all diseases that we can, and the thing is that most people do not really fear the death itself, but we fear how we face it and how we die. So in the end, we cannot really defy death for now, but as human beings, we must strive to reduce the pain and sufferings associated with illnesses near the end of our life. So these are some of the directions that the future of medicine could adopt: prevention and holistic, and proactive. And that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, because it's a bit more technical, but people are worried about their phones or your Apple Watch with the radiation. It's like, sleeping next to your phone or putting it on airplane mode. Do you know if that would be an issue with if there was something implanted on your tooth, would that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Yeah, there hasn't been too much studies and long-term effects on mounting these biological sensors. So yeah, but yeah, that definitely could be an issue.
As you're going through this, did you get any ideas about the role of the physician? I'm sort of thinking, as this new data is available digitally to get sent somewhere, my thought is, well, somebody's going to look at this data, understand it, and then decide what to do with it. So any thoughts about who that person should be? Is it going to be a physician? Is it going to be an algorithm?
Mm-hmm.
Are we personally, do you think, going to be responsible for responding to that data with the help of an algorithm, or do you think there's going to be a health professional that's the main recipient of it?
Yeah, it's definitely, there are going to be changes in the roles and the responsibilities of different professions. And I think it's going to be more of a collaboration between the patient, the algorithm, and the physicians. So everybody's working together on how to respond and understand the data. So I guess the algorithm is the first one to kind of process the data and kind of try to extract meaningful information from the physiological data, but I think it's going to be a more holistic approach where everybody works together and everybody will discuss what to do next, rather than is this person going to be responsible to act first, and kind of like a step-by-step approach.
I'm just comparing it to, sometimes challenges in the local system where a patient has seen a bunch of doctors, specialists, and they've all seen a little part of them, and they all did their little part, but they weren't quite sure who's going to bring it all together and do the rest. So I'm just wondering whether everybody's going to rely on the algorithm to be that entity.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue that everyone should address.
You can think of a pretty likely scenario that there would be some people who want their health monitored, but they don't want to know about it. They just want somebody else that could kind of, if there's something big to tell them, fine. But otherwise, they want their health totally handled without them knowing the granular details. And then, you know, societies will vary, right? I mean, in some totalitarian societies, the government wants to know everything and is looking to have the whole population be this herd of obedient subjects, you know?
Or insurance companies
Yeah.
looking to,
Yeah.
you know, get an upper hand. I mean, the whole insurance game, you know,
Right.
where a little bit of extra information,
Yeah.
you know, means that in the whole scheme of things, you're gonna make more money if you know a little bit more about this person.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I guess you worry about that, whether it's, you know, the monitor is offered by your insurance company, you get lower rates if
Right.
if the device shows that you're in fact healthy.
yeah.
But in fact, is it just one more step into the total surveillance system?
Yeah, and I mean, some things could be publicly accessible to everybody, like a little dot somewhere that says that you're still alive. So, if you disappear and people want to know if you're disappeared and dead or disappeared and living, maybe there would be some standard way of figuring that out, you know, and other gradations.
Otherwise, there will be human caregivers in the future, you think?
Maybe. Maybe we'll see more robotic. There are dog caregivers, I did not know about that, but there are dog caregivers too. So it'll be everyone, robots, humans, dogs,
Yeah.
exciting.
Okay, well, wow, right on time, so half an hour for each student, so exactly from 1:30 to 3. That was pretty awesome, so.
Oh, did we meet at 1:30 today? So I was
We did, because some of the students have stuff at 3:30, so the only way to accommodate 3 students was to start it. We didn't do it just to trick you, you know, just to frustrate you.
Yeah, no, I was busy till 2.
So anyway, but we are doing that same 1:30 start on Thursday. And on,
1:30 on Thursday?
yeah,
Okay.
and on Thursday, I'll return your papers and stuff like that. So, anyway, yeah, okay, thank you for today.